I'm just Nick, and this is the Earthquake Devices Hummingbird. So, this is an interesting pedal. It's two pedals in one. The way I hear it, it is a sort of very pronounced standard tremolo effect that is present and not subtle, but also really pleasing. There's nothing particularly edgy about it in the mode 1 setting. It's kind of a thick, pronounced tremolo with a smooth slope to it, but kind of a strong it's a smooth slope, but it's a little bit squared as well. It's not a really sort of smooth sine wave type of thing, so it's pronounced. So if you like to use tremolo as an effect that is really sort of forward in your tone, or for instance you use tremolo a lot with heavy distorted sounds, this is a great just regular tremolo effect. It has a really nice level control that allows you to compensate for the volume drop that you would get with a very sort of high depth setting of tremolo, because of course a tremolo is an amplitude modulating effect. You're basically reducing the volume a good bit of the time with a tremolo. That's what it does, right? It takes your volume and it makes it go down and then back up again. So you want to compensate for that. So that's really nice to have. It has a good range to it, so that when you're going with very, very deep tremolo effects, you're not going to disappear when you click the pedal on. But that's only half of what this pedal does. It has a mode 2 setting that I think sort of relates to the name of the pedal, the Hummingbird, which is a very, very high rate, or a range of high rates from this up into a much higher range than you find with most standard tremolo pedals. And at this point it becomes kind of something different than what we associate with tremolo. It becomes something that sounds a little bit more almost like ring modulation, but without any of the artifacts. You're still just dealing with a basic amplitude modulation. It's just extremely fast. And it opens up some really interesting musical possibilities, particularly in the lower frequencies. That's about half depth. I can use it in much more subtle ways by just bringing down the depth. So at these kind of lower depth settings, at these very high rates, it almost begins to assume the character of a resonant filter, but again, without the kind of artifacts you normally associate with that. So in a sense, it's a very sort of pronounced special effect, but it's one that is not really fatiguing to listen to in the same way that some other more complex modulations might be when they're at this kind of an extreme setting. And at very extreme settings, the highest rate, the highest depth, we get some really kind of interesting, almost but not quite dissonant qualities. The low strings almost become noise. They almost become, you know, you can't really detect their pitch very well, especially on that 6th string. But the high strings, the pitch is still very present, and it's almost as if we're playing some other sort of instrument, maybe a kind of a synth, or so it's a very pronounced effect, but it avoids, again, a lot of the kinds of processing artifacts, and it keeps your tone sort of strangely intact, because again, all we're doing here is really varying the volume really quickly. We're not really messing with frequency and time. So in that sense, it's kind of unique. It's a unique extreme effect that works very much with your original tone. It sounds great on harmonics too. So, if you like the Hummingbird, get a hold of the cool people at Rock and Roll Vintage, and they will hook you up. It's a pretty cool effect, and I haven't heard anything really quite like it. Until next time.